All right, there we go. I think we're good to go here. All right, so welcome to the first SpellArms stream. My name is Ian, also known as Shoal Shepherd on Discord. Over here is Craig, who is who on Discord?
Shapoopy 187. So, yeah,
I know it's a Family Guy reference.
actually a Music Man reference.
Really?
Uh huh.
Okay, well, I don't know my references then, or should I feel
An
ashamed that I
old
know it
movie.
more
An old
so
movie that
from
Family Guy
Family Guy?
quoted the song from. So
What?
it's an old movie that Family Guy quoted the song from.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. So yeah. So this is the very first stream. We're going to be talking a little bit about the game, upcoming plans. We're going to show off some cards. We're going to focus mainly on stuff that's going to be coming out of the starter decks. The reason for that is just because the booster set stuff is still in very much alpha, but also at the same time that's a long ways away. So we're gonna kind of talk about the cards, what they mean, and really dive into some detail. I'll do it from obviously the guy who made the cards perspective, and Craig is gonna do it from the perspective of the guy who probably has stared at them a couple thousand times. I think that's even under exaggerating whatever the word is.
A few.
A few, okay. But yeah, let's get to it. So the very first thing we're gonna show. Let me pull up my stuff here. Is we're gonna show off how you build a deck. So a deck is made of three different card types, which are green cards, blue cards, and red cards. You're going to see a combination of the red cards and blue cards as well as the green cards soon. But the main thing for those cards is that they not only provide you defenses, but they kind of adjust or tell you how powerful a card is, as well as a way for us to balance it. So, for example, a deck is made of 10 red cards, 20 blue cards, and 30 green cards. Um, I don't know, Craig, from the red cards that you've seen, are they broken or are they just like good generally?
Oh, there's some that are absolutely phenomenal cards, and then there's some that are just a good rare, like a solid card that should
Mm-hmm.
be one of staple in the deck.
Yeah, so we're not talking like a level of like a lightning bolt or uh,
No, 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 no. We're talking about almost like cards where you take control of your opponent for a turn.
yeah.
Those are the fun ones.
Yeah, your green cards are more like your lightning bolts, uh,
Your
your
giant
draw
crows,
one
counter
effects, your
spells.
what would be that for like Dragon Ball?
I don't really think Dragon Ball would have anything like that.
Nothing like
I mean,
Sensu Bean or anything like that.
Senzu Bean would probably be the staple common that everybody would understand in Dragon Ball.
Hmm.
Um,
I'm just trying
that's
to think of
probably the
staples.
staple.
I guess
Not
for
anymore.
you it would be like
The game has
MST.
changed so much. So
Oh, hold on. Gotcha. All right. Let's start actually looking at some cards here. So the very first thing that we're going to show off is contestants. Contestants are our main guys. So what these are the commanders, these are the players, these are your champions. These are the characters that represent you on the field slash board. Um, Here we have Orc, our treasure lich here. Craig, I'm gonna give that to you here in a sec. Sorry, give me a sec here. We're kind of on Discord, and I have to show him or grab him anything here. Here we go. I'm just gonna do both versions for you real quick. Um, now, the abilities of the cards are not generally tied into a specific thing. What that basically means is that you're not forced to play a specific way. So the very first thing a person will notice is that the not only the name of the card is important, oh, is it's the actual typing of the contestant. So, for example, Oric here is a treasure mancer. You will see other treasure mancer slash mancy cards in the starter decks, but you don't have to put them in your deck. It's just recommended to have them in the deck if that's the deck you're playing. And I'm sure you've done some mixing and matching specifically when doing the testing too. Like they're helpful for the contestant, but they're not like required.
Right, right.
Um,
Not in the starter phases.
so we're gonna show off Oric's ability here. Give me a sec. So just and just so people are aware, these are not the final versions of the cards. We may change up some lettering, we may change up some art, we may fix, some of the lettering, we may change sizing. This is just what I made via Photoshop slash pixel art in like 5 minutes. So we're kind of gonna take it as is. But Oric is our kind of our control character here. So he's the guy where he wants to play as many cards as he possibly can. And if you don't, he actually hurts himself as a result. Craig, what's your review of Oric?
I actually like the character, especially in conjunction with some of the cards that come in the starter deck for him, because wards are you get one per turn unless you're playing cards that generate wards.
Mm-hmm.
His ability doesn't care if it's a 3 ward, 2 ward, 1 ward. It blows it up, and it allows you to access your opponent's hit points directly for your attacks. So it makes it a more aggressive strategy with him.
Yeah,
So
and
we
for those who don't know, wards are cards. Every card, like I mentioned previously, has a color. You can put the card down as a ward, which gives you that much shielding depending on its color. So, for example, if you put down your red card, which is your powerful card, it's probably going to protect you more. Blue, it's only going to give you 2 shields. Greens are only going to give you 1 shield. It's a way for you to use every card in some fashion. However, as Greg mentioned, Orc doesn't care. He just blows it up. So he really can tear down defenses pretty handily and very quickly.
oh, yeah.
Let's see here. So the next card we're going to go to is probably the card that is the most interesting. And I think you actually really liked these cards. And anytime I gave you a spoiler, I think you asked for these first. These are your familiars. So your familiar cards are probably the most unique mechanic of the game. The first thing you'll notice with any familiar is it's going to have 2 abilities. The first ability is going to be its portal phase effect. Um, the portal phase is a sub phase before the game begins that'll determine essentially how the game even starts. Um, for those who are familiar with the mulligan rule in any of these games, a mulligan can drastically change if you win or if you lose. So the idea for familiars were they can change not only how you mulligan, but in some cases, if you want a mulligan. So, for example, our default familiar, or our sprite here, gives you the magic mulligan, as well as a special drain effect, which is tapping in Magic or exhausting in any other card game, to let you reveal the top card of your deck. So you get a kind of okay after effect, but the portal face effect gives you a really good mulligan as a result. If I remember correctly with your testing, you use this quite a bit, actually. I don't know.
Yes, sir. We did. We used it, and then one of the other ones. But this one here, I like having the mulligan rule for the portal phase, because if you don't win the ability to go first, where it would either be to place your contestant or just to have the option to either place your contestant or portal phase, I like having that rule because it might change up how I want to set up my hand for the game. So many times I would draw, and it'd be an optimal hand, right? But with this game here, you don't actually have a mulligan, right? So if you draw and it's absolute bad hand, you're stuck with it, right? If
Yep,
you
and
don't
then
have the
that's where you're kind of blaming your familiar. Like, did I pick the right one? If I'm building a specific deck, do I want a specific type of familiar? Um, it's it's kind of a secondary commander that you are putting in your deck to kind of add a new level of variety to the deck itself. So you'll have some familiars that give you cards that you want just automatically, but again, you're sacrificing your mulligan. Or some familiars that have really powerful effects during the game, but their portal phase ability is just terrible. It's like get +1 armor. That's it. Like
You are taking the gamble of the RNGesus effects of the 7 card draw.
yeah, and you can obviously sideboard familiars too. So if you're having an issue with your familiar and you're like, okay, this isn't working, you can just swap out another one. The only card obviously you can't sideboard is your contestant because that's who you're playing. But you know, familiars are one of those where again, depending on which familiar you're playing, depending on which your contestant you're playing, you can kind of adjust on the fly as necessary. All right, perfect. So the next type of card we're going to go to is the skill cards. So skill cards are generally broken down into 4 different types. The first one is going to be your slowest, which is your rookie cards. Your rookie skills are cards that you play on your turn during your main phases, or I think we were calling them the major phases. They just do an effect and that's it, and then they go to the grave zone. The card I have here is Pay to Win, which I think we're going to show more of. I think we actually talked about with this you a couple times in this case. Oh, hey, I want to blah 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 blah. Cool. Sorry, spam stuff. And I apologize that the text is small. Again, I made these pretty quickly here. But again, so rookie cards are played kind of at a slow speed. They do their effect and they're essentially done. Nothing too crazy. Expert cards are the exact opposite of that. Expert cards are cards that you can play pretty much at any time, at any point during your turn or your opponent's turn. I think this expert card was your personal favorite. This was Superfluous, I think. So that's one you really like, if I remember correctly.
Oh, this image is different.
Oh,
Yes. This card's actually really fun. You get to either add wards, right? If you blew up one of your opponent's wards, you can add wards from the top of your deck into your field. And like I said in the beginning here, ward generation is very slim, right? Unless your character has a special ability for it or you draw cards that do it, the odds of getting more wards out there are low, right? So you want as much armor so you take as minimal damage as possible.
mm-hmm.
And this card here gives you that option to not only filter off some of the cards off your deck if you've already looked at them via like your familiar, right? Where you're able to look at the top card of your deck and be like, oh, I don't want this turn, right? And if you have a card that says, well, now I get to make an award, one of those great opportunities.
Awesome. All right. So yeah, anytime, any turn. The next type of skill we're gonna show is a panic card. So panic cards are cards you can play only during your opponent's turn. They are at any time, but the main thing is that again you just can't use them on your own turn. Some of these like strategic retreat, cards that really mess with how your opponent is going to play out their turn. The reason is, again, you may have some cards that have really good effects, but because they are at panic speed or your opponent's turn only, it's really slowing them down or making them kind of rethink their strategies, or it's preventing busted cards like draw 2 cards from just being cycled on your turn over and over and over again. So some of the stronger effects are panic only as a result. And I think Strategic Retreat is one that we actually had to make panic because it was just, like really good.
Oh yeah.
All right.
The ability to just move to a different range marker at any given moment was pretty strong.
Yeah. All right. The last of the skill subtypes is surprise. So surprise cards. Let me pull that up here. Here we go. And this is actually going to be our first blue card here. So surprise cards are cards that you can only play in response to another card being played. So you can respond to your own card with a surprise card, and you can respond to your opponent's card with a surprise card, but you can't play them by themselves. So you can't, if this is like the only card in your hand, you can't play it. If you want to play this card, it means you have to have another card even to play it in the first place. Um, so you'll often run into situations of where you'll want to play something, and then surprise, it happens, and then you get responses and so on and so forth. Usually, it's more for cards that counter effects or kind of adjust how other cards are being played. You know, cards that create situations on the stack to make your opponent think about, okay, what is my next move? Or, okay, especially for some of the combo decks, all right, I may have an amazing combo, but I need to play multiple surprises in a row to make it work. And I think Ambush was one of the cards you actually just suggested during the early days, if I remember correctly.
Yes, because I'm a big fan of also using every card that we have access to. One of which would be our sidearm.
Oh, you mean
Because there
the
will be
weapons? Yeah.
yes, the weapons, right? Because you want to be able to use every card that you have at your disposal, so that your opponent never really fully knows what you're doing. So it's kind of a surprise for them. Get it? Like we have surprise effects. Sorry, bad dad joke is bad dad joke.
Yeah, it works. It works. All right. So let's see here. So next we're gonna go into cosmetics, just because I think those are the ones that. No, sorry, we have to go into the actual weapons. I apologize. So the very first card type. Did I not save one? I did not. Okay, hold on a sec. I have to actually add our spell arm here. Um, so the very first thing people are going to see, and the actual name of the game, is SpellArms. So I'll kind of explain what a spell arm is first. Ooh, that is a very big version. We're going to fix that. Again, sorry guys, we kind of had to make a lot of this last minute, just because we both work jobs and Craig has kids, and it's a whole thing. Anyway, so spell arms are your basic weapons. They have damage, they have charges, which are ammo, they have a rarity to them. The weapons are how you're going to deal your opponent damage and how you're going to get them from 20 HP to 0. They can be used at any range, they can destroy wards, they're fantastic. They're multi-purpose. Obviously, the spell arms themselves vary from, green, which are kind of okay, blue, which are like your okay spell arms but tend to have effects, and then your red spell arms, which tend to be like, again, just totally busted, capable of one-shotting opponents almost by themselves. We've actually had to balance the red spell arms, I think, a couple times.
We have.
Yeah.
We have.
But, again, they're really good. You should be able to feel the power, and which is kind of the main goal there. All right. Let's get rid of that. For another type of weapon, we have the melee weapons, which are a little more constrictive than the spell arms. But, again, like, it's a sword. You want to use the sword. So the weapon we have here is what's called the Gilded Cleaver. So this is Oric's main weapon. Now again, even if you don't have Oric as your contestant, you can still put this in your deck. So you can still play this, and people have discovered some pretty crazy combos with it regardless. And the main thing is that they're very restrictive in terms of the ranges that can be used. So for example, melee... Oh, that is a mistake on that card, and I will fix that later. It's supposed to be weapon, melee, treasuremancy. But, again, a lot of these were made last second. But regardless, they kind of change how your contestant plays. They buff up their abilities. They They're there to kind of add as a secondary source of damage if you don't have a spell arm or if you just need an effect to activate. And they tend to be quite powerful if I remember correctly. The next type of cards you'll run into are cosmetics. Cosmetics are important. They not only buff your character or just how your contestant plays, but oftentimes will improve the contestant's abilities as a result. So, Craig, I think the card that I'm sending you is the name is different, but you've seen this before. It's the one where it plays two of everything.
Yes, yes.
Um,
It
so
works very well with the contestant that we revealed earlier.
yeah, and the big thing about cosmetics, and this is kind of the way their type is set up, is you can have cosmetics of different subtypes, but you can't have the same cosmetic of the same subtype on the field at the same time. So you can't have two attachments. You can't have two of, and we'll go into more cosmetics. But the point is, it's only one of. So having a lot of different cosmetics is awesome, but you may run into a situation where maybe you already have a cosmetic on the field and you have the same cosmetic type in your hand. So you don't just want to make a full deck of cosmetics because it's a numbers game. At some point, you're just not going to be able to play the cards in your hand. All right. Let's see here. So the next cosmetic we're going to get into is elixirs, which again, you can only have one of. Elixirs are your kind of one of powerful effects. They're kind of just one and done deals. But this is very important. When a card uses all its ammo or uses all its charges, it doesn't go away. There are cards in the decks and in the booster set which actually will give cards more charges. And there are some cards that are effective based on the number of charges are on a card, or in some cases, there are cards that will adjust or kind of mess with in terms of the fact that they're still on the field, the fact that they're not gone. And that can be very important. So, for example, for the elixirs, in this case, even if you use the ability, it still combos off pay to win, which is fantastic. And this card particularly, is really good in tight situations. Because like other games, if you use an exhaust or a drain or a tap mechanic, you can pretty much use it any time. It's a activated ability. You can react to your opponent or playing something. So you can kind of see where some of the combo play can really get into, especially with some of the elixirs. Ones that let you draw full hands, get rid of your opponent's cards, mess with your deck. They can do some pretty silly things. And that's kind of the main thing we wanted, or I wanted for this game, is kind of the player. I wanted the players to break the deck or to break the game rather than the deck to tell you how to play. And we've had a lot of that, honestly. We've had a lot of times where people have shown me combos I never would have thought of or never would have seen, and then just say, hey, Ian, don't fix this. Like, it's really cool. Or I've had to adjust card effects to make sure the combos that they want to work actually do work as well. And more importantly, and as you've probably noticed, none of these cards have mana costs. If you want to play a card, you just play it. There's nothing that says you have to play 3 cards a turn, you have to, sacrifice this to play that. No, you just, you play it and you're done. That's it. It's maybe not a good idea to dump your whole hand. Maybe you want to dump your whole hand. We want that to be your decision. We don't want the game to say you cannot play. And that's kind of a big thing we wanted to really emphasize with this. All right. The next type of cards we're going to show off are item cards. Item cards are cards that are cards you can have as many as you want of. So even if you play one item card, you can have another item card on the field of the exact same name, type, doesn't matter. So the first one is the consumables. So the first we have is the Stone Skin Tonic, the one that I think for Craig is the one that gave you armor. Oh, excuse me. Again, they're not busted. They're not insane. They're just there to help you. Um, these, because they have the subtype consumable, means that they will actually be destroyed when they lose their last charge, though, unlike the elixirs. If I remember correctly, I think also this was one that you gave me some feedback on. You said like the charges were too high. I think we had like 5 charges previously.
Yeah, well, I think it was the too much armor. If I'm not mistaken. I think the original one was what, 3 armor?
Yeah, I think it was 3 armor if I remember correctly. Yeah, just way too much armor, way too quickly.
Yeah.
But then obviously, if you showed me an aggro deck, and I had to kind of rethink that a little bit. um, all right, and let's see here. So our next card type is let's see here. So those are traps. So these were a little bit of a later add-on, but they've been very successful so far. So why don't you? I've explained, enough of these. Why don't you kind of explain to people what a trap is?
So the easiest way to understand a trap, right, is if this card is as a ward, right, face down on the field, and your opponent makes an attack and it destroys this ward, because every ward has to be revealed just to also rules check, right? Like you don't want people just say, "Oh, that was a 3 armor ward." We'll get into that later. You reveal the effect. So if cards like a trap have a when this card is used as a ward and destroyed, they get a reveal effect. The enemy still deals damage, but you gain the effect. Like for this particular one, absorption trap, you gain 3 armor, and the gain is immediate as soon as that ward is destroyed before the rest of the damage carries on. So realistically, sometimes this could save you if you were, say, at 5 hit points, or 5 hit points, and your opponent is doing 7 damage on their attack. 1 damage would blow this ward up, of course, but we'd have 6 damage remaining going over to your hit points. But if the armor is gained, right, we now gain 3 armor, which would absorb some of the damage for our character.
Yep.
So these cards here have been an actual really, really neat add-on from the first gen of the game when Ian first dropped it. Because when he first got trapped, what are these?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, the biggest feedback we got when we were initially testing the game was make it so ranges matter more. And that's kind of where these kinds of cards really came into play was, and you'll notice too at the very bottom it says, if attacked by an enemy on long range, the effect doesn't activate. We wanted players to think about what range they were on more often. So you'll see some traps that'll only activate on long range, some traps that may activate only on medium range, some effects that really make you think, depending on what your opponent is playing, what their kind of game plan is. So for example, if you know that they're playing a stall type of deck, you know that, hey, maybe I should have some cards that affect that get better at long range, just so I don't have to deal with all those trap effects that could really hinder my plans. We wanted the players to feel like they weren't shoehorned into a specific style, just so that all the cards synergized all the time. Now, if you're building a deck and you want to be stubborn about it and just do whatever you want, that's your decision. I'm not going to tell you again how to play. So that's kind of where that really comes into play there. All right, perfect. So the next card type we're going to get into are our throwables. So what these are is cards that are kind of items that you use as a one-time effect and then change range or change areas depending on what cards you reveal. So for players who really like manipulating the order of their deck or really like effects that are kind of randomized, these are the cards specifically for you. They're a little complicated, so we're not going to talk about them too much, but some of them are really strong if they land on the correct range marker. So for example, for Clockwork Bomb, it gives you like a wheel effect, which is insane. And then for some of the other throwables, they like stop attacks directly. They mess with your opponent's wards. They can adjust some of the cards on specifically the field as well. They can do some nasty things. But again, it's a chance. So you're paying a powerful effect for the chance to even have it happen in the first place. So that's kind of where we're really trying to be careful, because some of the effects are actually like really good, and then obviously if you're manipulating your deck, you're almost guaranteed to get them. So this is kind of a way for people who like to play like the old Vanguard Amaterasu decks, or the old I think there was a blue deck in Modern where the whole point was to manipulate the top of your deck. I can't remember the name of it. I think Dragon Ball has a deck like that too, where you're manipulating your deck stack. But that was kind of the idea, at least, of this card design. All right, let's see here. So the next card we're going to get into, and I think this is actually our last card, are the enchantments. So enchantments are cards that are attached to other cards. The enchantment I'm showing you here is Sting. So this is a Ruin. Let me see here. There we go. These are cards that are attached to other cards. When the attached card goes away, the enchantment goes away. Very similar to Magic, very similar to other card games. You've seen it a million times before. You attach them, but you don't just attach them to like creatures or whatever. There's no creatures in the game. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. The point is they go onto a card and they buff it, or they adjust it, or they change it, or they mess with it. The runes specifically go onto weapons, but there are going to be more enchantment types that you'll see as more boosters come out. So for example, sigils are one of the card types that is being tested right now and is eventually going to come out. I know we have glyphs that are coming out at some point. I think we got mandalas, which are coming out later. There's a lot of enchantment types that are eventually going to come out. And I think there's an enchantment that is going to come out in the next set as well. I think I have to double check that. Let's see here. All right, so I think that's it for all the card types, at least from the start. So let's talk a little bit about what the current game plan is. So what we're doing right now... Oh, I actually have something I want to show. Sorry. Where is it? Nope. Okay, I can't find it. Regardless, we're going to talk a little bit about the game plan. So the current roadmap, or the current idea, is that right now we're pretty much done with starter testing. Craig's been testing those starters pretty much to death at this point. So I think he's given me the thumbs up multiple times. Is that right?
Yeah, we've tested enough. I think I've burned through 2 sets of sleeves on each deck. So.
Oh my god, I did not know that. Okay.
We power shuffle real.
So the starters are pretty much done. We're gonna try to get all the art done by the end of March. I honestly want to give a shout out to all the artists who've been working on the game. You've done such an amazing job. It's honestly, the art has been fantastic. And we have a lot more art and a lot more artists on the way who are working on the stuff. I'm blown away, honestly. And then I also want to give a shout out to all of the testers as well, including Craig here, who's been helping me test almost daily. You know, you guys have really took the game that was kind of a mess into something that is actually potentially sellable. So that's been a huge improvement on all ends. And then, so the starters themselves are going to take some time to print. I think we got quoted 3 months for the printing, just because we have to do proofing and we have to work out foils and the packing. Once the starters are approved for creation, we're going to start opening the pre-orders. So people will be able to pre-order the starters once I have confirmation that they are actually getting made. Like I said, that 3-month period will probably end in June, which means June is when people will be able to have physical cards in their hands. Now, we are going to also spend those 3 months to get the cards ready to play on on Tap, on Tabletop Simulator, on Screen Top, pretty much on all the online sites and simulators and platforms or whatever you want to play, just for the sake of people, being able to play them and have fun. You'll also see the website update with all the cards too. So if you don't know what a card does, you can just check the website and it'll have it on there. Um, we're also working on a free demo deck with free demo deck cards in them that players can just print out if they want, or they don't have any rarity. They're cards that are just there. All those cards are cards that will be in a booster set at some point. I think they're all in booster set 1. The main thing is that we didn't want a situation where a promo exists, but you couldn't get it at some point. So there's no gonna. I don't want any chase, $1,000 promos that only one person has, that has only one effect nobody's ever seen. I know, but I can't do that, and I know a lot of people are gonna be frustrated. Now,
No, that was the mistake that a lot of card games made, where they were, take case in point was in the '90s, early 2000s was the original Score Dragon Ball game, right?
mhm.
Where there were certain promos, the only way to get them was ordering Kraft mac and cheese from Australia.
I think,
So
I think.
yeah, and I mean some of the cards were
Wait,
really good, right?
Australia for
Yeah, yeah,
Dragon
yeah.
Ball?
It was promotion. It was a promotion for Kraft mac and cheese, and these promotional cards were only in Kraft mac and cheese boxes sold in Australia.
I think Magic had something with the Scry magazines, if I remember correctly, too, where some of those cards are only available in there as well.
It's their card games try all these kind of crazy things, right? Because I mean, realistically, you want to get different markets involved into it, but I
Yeah.
think if you just have a global community that can have access to these cards, that makes it playable for everybody and fun. I think more people enjoy that part. Like,
Yeah, and just to touch on promos too, the starters will have like chase promos in them. So, like for example, if you buy a starter, it's still going to be a starter. But I think it's something right now we have something like 1 out of 10 starters is going to have a promo, and then 1 out of 100 is going to have like a super promo. I actually have one of my artists working on, and I'm ashamed of it, but I'm also like giddy about it too. They're working on a beach style of one of the contestants for promos, so it's like them in beachwear.
you got to do your fan service. You got to do
Oh,
your
of
fan
course, of
service.
course, of course.
I think you should do it. I think you should do it for both genders, right, of the character of the
Uh,
character.
there's 2 beach promos right now that are in production, so those will get done. There are also, like I said, there are also exclusive promos that are not based on their abilities, but are based on the art. So, for example, all the testers, as well as some specific individuals, got a special card art of one of the contestants that nobody is ever going to get again. Which means you're never going to get in a pack, you're never going to get in a box, you're never going to get in whatever. This is something specifically for those people because they believed in me, they believed in the game, or they helped in some way. So, for example, for Craig here, he's going to be one of those guys who's going to get those promos. It's a thank you for doing so much to help the game. Now, if he wants to sell the promo to somebody, that's his decision. I'm not going to enforce that. Good, just
My
if
yeah.
that's on record right now. It's in writing? Okay, good to know. um, all right. Let's see here. And then, yeah, so once we actually get the starters, once people start playing, we're going to go to conventions. We're going to show off more stuff. We're going to stream games. I know Greg has a great mic and a great camera. He's going to start showing off some starter games to people just so they can, ask questions. And, we're going to put those on YouTube. Him and his son have been doing, honestly, a great job. The whole thing has been fantastic. Um, and then the idea is to eventually have a Kickstarter for the first booster set. Each booster set has 300 cards, and those are going to be the first booster set is going to be Kickstarted, but the Kickstarter is not going to be for the booster set itself. It's going to be to kickstart the entire game itself. We really want this to be a whole operation. We don't want to just do one booster set. We want to do all 12 that we have planned and ready to go. And that kind of goes into what I'm going to talk about next, which is how the kind of booster set system is going to work. So sets are going to be divided into what are called sets and sagas. So Saga 1 is going to be rituals and locations, which is booster set 1. Booster set 2 is teammates and bets. Booster set 3 is called fish and towers. And then the fourth set is going to be what's called an update set. What that is it's going to be more cards of those card types. Just maybe we thought of new ones. Maybe we want to change. We want to add some new effects. Maybe you got a contestant, or maybe there was a contestant that is really popular and people want them to get a familiar or more cards within their specific magic art type. So, for example, if Orc turns out to be really popular, we might say, hey, we'll give him more Treasuremancy cards as a result. Cool. Or maybe a card is really underplayed. Like, let's say, I'm just going to use a one I know Craig will laugh about. Maybe Ire is really underplayed for some reason. Like, nobody plays her. We'll give her a bunch of cards that'll make her even better.
Yeah. Even better. Even better.
Whew. I know. Grit and bear it. But you get the idea. Though that update set is there for people to, for cards to kind of, just to get more options. And the reason that I'm dividing into sagas is because each saga is going to be kind of its own block or its own format. So Saga 1 is going to be Format 1. I have a name on the website. I can't remember it. I apologize. We'll probably refer to it in another YouTube video. But the idea is you'll have the set itself, which will be its own format. You'll have the saga, which will be its own format. And then you'll just have every card printed ever, which will be its own format. So your version of standard, modern, legacy, classic, eternal, so on and so forth. Premium, whatever you call it. The idea is that you'll be able to play with different cards. Some card combinations you'll be able to break, and that's fine. But we're going to do ban sets and limit sets and so on and so forth for each one. And it's probably not going to be that hard to balance, but some we're going to focus more on others. We're probably going to focus on the sagas the first and foremost, though, because that's the one that cards are going to be designed around the most. So, for example, ritual locations are balanced specifically around teammates and bets and fish and towers coming out later. Now, when I say balanced, we're going to do our best. There may be cards that slip under the cracks. It happens. But,
we don't miss anything.
What?
So we don't miss anything.
Yeah, said every game developer ever. Well, I remember, I think there were actually, what was the game that just came out and they put a patch 30 seconds after the game came out because it was so bad? And then you have the Bayonetta 3 patch that came out. Patches are just going to happen, or fixes are going to happen. And that's something also where you might find cards too that's going to happen too in the update set. So, for example, if a card is proving to be too powerful, we may just reprint it as a higher color. Like if Superfluous is just in every single deck and the first saga, we might say, cool, Superfluous is now blue card. Here's the new reprint. If you're playing Eternal, you can play both versions, but you still have to pick one of the names. And, we'll adjust on necessary.
The best thing people have to understand, ban and restricted lists and updates, things like that, they're there to help the health of a game. So nobody's perfect. I mean, everything's gonna have flaws, right? We try to catch them before they become big ones. But yeah, Ian's sets that are gonna fix these things are great for the health of games. So
and that's not to say, of course, that we're not going to make this as standardized as possible. If a balance ever comes out, I will guarantee that it comes out on that specific date. So I think right now the plan is to have it once a month. So you can guarantee right now at the first day of every month that a balance is going to come out at that point. The main thing is I don't want people guessing or trying to say the balance patch, maybe it comes out in July, maybe it's in August, maybe, this card's going to be banned right before the tournament. No, no, we will make sure every month, hey, this is what's allowed and this is what's not allowed on this date, on this time. Something is going to be posted, guaranteed. And that's a big one because goddamn have I played a lot of games where that has not happened, and it's very, very frustrating. Oh my god, has that been so
Oh, yeah.
frustrating. 40K had a couple of those, and wow, I wanted to tear my hair out, like, badly. All right, I think we've covered a lot today. The Twitch stream, again, is going to be used for announcements. We'll talk about cards. We're probably going to use another Twitch stream to kind of go over each of the starter decks card by card, contestant by contestant. The next stream will probably be about the contestants themselves. We'll break down each one. We may also just do a full game breakdown as well, just so people can see, like, what wards? What are they talking about? Armor, shields, like colors? We talked a lot about today, but again, this is just the first preview, so we'll show how it works, how everything goes. We'll really break it down for you as much as possible, and then at some point we will release the full rule book for every single person to correct me on grammar, spelling, whatever, just for the sake of people being able to play on their own time if they want. And I think that's pretty much it. Craig, any last remarks here?
You covered a lot for the first day. I mean, I can't wait to sit down here and actually go over some real nitty gritty gameplay stuff with you guys. It's going to be fun. Like, I have had a blast playing this game. So
awesome. And I actually have a surprise for you, sir.
Uh-oh.
So remember how I said the first booster set is done?
Yes.
So I'm going to put it in your channel tonight.
Put in what?
I'm going to put the whole booster set in your channel tonight, so you can flip through all the cards.
Oh.
So that's your surprise.
I get to stare at different cards other than the same 120.
I know.
120.
I felt bad that you were legitimately staring at like the same cards over and over and over again for so long. But I also wanted to make sure some of the cards were playable.
No, absolutely. I understand the method behind it. These new ones here is going to be like Christmas in February.
Yep, and then now that we've actually like finalized a lot of the rules, so it means these booster sets are also going to come out a lot faster as well for testing. We're going to spend as much time as we can for testing all of these sets as much as we possibly can. We really want to make sure, again, that these cards are balanced, but more importantly, that they're fun, that they're working as intended, that people are not just playing the cards because they're broken, but playing the cards because they are interesting. And hopefully everybody does and enjoys it. And, again, we'll see you for the next stream. And keep following us on social media, Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, literally every social media. I think I'm working on Mastodon tomorrow because people keep requesting it. Just keep following us everywhere. We'll go over more details. We'll show off more cards. We'll show off more spicy promos. We'll really go into some more details and we'll plan out more stuff, kind of especially as the month of February continues. February is our rules month, so this is the month where we are legitimately going to try to show off everything. Also, Monday we're going to be putting out the influencer / content creator listing. So if you have a YouTube channel, if you stream, if you have a podcast or whatever, that'll be where you'll submit all your info and we will give you a card to show off that nobody has seen yet before. It'll be a card in the starter set, but you'll be the first to be able to post it and you'll be able to be the first one to talk about it. And again, if it's a podcast, I'll even tell you how it works or how it works in the context of the game, whatever. Point is, we really want to put this game on full blast. So we'll really get everything going as fast as possible. Other than that, yeah, I think that's everything. We're at the 50-minute mark. I'm sorry for the long video, guys, but, we have a lot to talk about. And hopefully we'll see you guys to be playing more SpellArms. And have a good night. Bye.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.